Hey guys, welcome back to Bulbasaur Bros TCG, and today I am going to be profiling for you my Golisopod GX Garbodor deck that I have been playing a lot recently. Since, Burning Shadows came out, it's been a while. This is almost the same list that got second place at Worlds last season, but ended up losing to Gardevoir GX. But I play slightly differently, but I still think it's pretty solid, and yeah, let's get into it. So first we have to start off with our 4 Wimpods, and these are necessary because they have the ability Wimp Out, which enables them to retreat on their first turn. So just in case you start with one and you can't get one ready, and you don't want it to get knocked out by the opposing Pokemon, you can just take it to the bench, so that's nice. And then, of course, to evolve from them, we have our 3 Golisopod GXs. And Golisopod GX is really good. The best thing about it is its first impression attack, which is for a 1 grass energy. It does 30 plus 90 more damage if it came to the active spot this turn. So that could be really good, especially if you used Wimpod to go to the bench on the first turn and then you retreat back into Golisopod once it evolves. There can be some real good synergy with some other cards, and it deals big damage just for 1 energy. And then it has a couple more attacks, the second one being Armor Press for a grass and a DCE, or 3 grass, and it does 100 damage, and this Pokemon takes 20 less damage from attacks next turn, so that's pretty good in some scenarios. And then its GX attack is Crossing Cut GX for the same amount of energy. It does 150 damage, so with a Choice Band that can do 180 and takes knockouts on most basic EXs and GXs, and then it switches Golisopod back to the bench, so he could come back in again next turn. And then, along with our Golisopod, we have our Garbodor line, which starts with 4 Trubbishes. And we played the Breakpoint Trubbish because it has the attack Acid Spray, and if you get ahead, then it'll discard the energy on the opponent's Pokemon, and that could be good just in case you ever have to use that. And then these Trubbishes evolve into Garbodor, the new card from Guardians Rising. And this card has been super good in tons of decks. For the attack Trashalanche, which does 20 times how many item cards are in your opponent's discard pile, I'm sorry. And this could be crazy amounts of damage if your opponent doesn't play it right. So you could be starting with a Golisopod, and then your opponent doesn't know you play Garbodor and they can't play around it, and then you bring in Garbodor and hit for tons of damage. And then we're also playing one Garbotoxin Garbodor from a Breakpoint. And then this is good for the ability Garbotoxin, which is, and this card is ran in a lot of decks, because that ability shows when this Garbodor, when it's holding an item, whether that be a Choice Band or what people usually use, a Float Stone, it turns off all of the abilities of every Pokemon in play, both yours and opponents, and in the discard. It's everywhere. And those are the main Pokemon, and then we also have one Tapu Koko promo for its free retreat, because that's really good if you Guzma into it and then retreat back into Golisopod. And for the attack Flying Flip, which has, for a DCE, does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, and that could be really good to set up some big knockouts later. And then I also play 2 Tapu Lele GXs, because this is just super good for consistency, and it's a great backup attacker, and it's good all around. So that's the whole list of Pokemon right there. And then let's get into the trainers real quick. Alright, to start off our trainer account here, we have 4 of the Professor Sycamore, which is a great consistency card. Just discard the rest of your hand and draw 7 cards. That's just really good for great draw support. And then our other supporters we have 4 N's for just the more consistency draw support that most people would run. You shuffle in your hand and you take out how many prizes cards you have left remaining. And that could be good to get more cards or to disrupt your opponent in the late game. And then we play 3 Guzmas from Burning Shadows. And this is good because you switch out your Pokemon as well as your opponent, so you could target their Pokemon. And then you could switch out your Pokemon to bring Golisopod into the active to do the big damage for 1 energy on first impression. And then we play 3 Acerolas from Burning Shadows, just to pick up your Pokemon and save the damage so they can't get any easy knockouts on you, especially if you're not prepared for it. And then 1 Bridget for consistency, just to get all your basics out, your Wimpods and your Trubishes, and then sometimes Tapu Koko when you need to. And then in the items we play 4 Ultra Balls, and that's just good because you can discard 2 cards to get any Pokemon out of your deck that you want, and that's just really good to find what you need to get set up. And then we play 2 Fuel Blowers to get rid of our items on our opponent's Pokemon, just to help disrupt them, or get rid of their stadiums too if they play those. And then 1 Super Rod to get back mainly Pokemon, but also our basic energies if we really need them in the late game. And then 1 Rescue Stretcher, because it's basically a Super Rod on the second option, but on the first option you could put 1 Pokemon back into your hand, which could be crazy good if you lose your Garbotoxin or you need an extra Lele or something like that. And then also an interesting choice in this deck is 1 Energy Lotto to search, and you take the top 7 cards of your deck and you get to search, and then if you can take any energy card there you want. It doesn't have to be a basic. So in this deck you could take the DCEs or the Rainbow Energies, which could help you a ton. And then we also play 3 Choice Bands just to do the extra damage, mainly on Golisopod, but this can be good for not Trubbish, Garbodor to hold too. And then what's really essential is these 4 Float Stones for things like Garbotoxin, Garbodor to hold, or your Lele's, or just anything that needs to retreat out of the active, to either bring in an alternate attacker or your Golisopod to hit for the big damage. And then for energies, we play 3 basic grass energies for your Golisopods and that such, because no one else really uses them ever. And then we play these 4 rainbow energies, which can apply to any type of Pokemon. So we mainly use these on Garbodors, but they could come in clutch on Golisopods or anything else when we have to. And then 4 double colorless energy, and because this can be attached to Golisopod to do its second attack, Tapu Koko to use its attack, Tapu Lele, or Garbodor to use its second attack that we don't ever use. So they're pretty good overall. And yeah, that's my deck. So this has been Bulbasaur Bros TCG signing off.